Welcome to Speak for Yourself, delivered by Pizza Hut. All right, order today at pizzahut.com. Marcel Swati.
My dog, you look great. That's all I got to say.
Emmanuel Acho.
It's going to be a good show.
Should I reciprocate? You look great. Let's get it in. Let's start where we're from. Dallas. Yes, you got to go back home, big dog. I'm from there, too. Episode 2 of Hard Knocks aired last night. Saw it, peep game. Hype train on the Cowboys is huge this year as Dallas tries to bounce back from a 6-10 season in last night's episode. Mike McCarthy, Super Bowl head coach winning Mike McCarthy, talked to his team ahead of their preseason game last Friday and stressed changing their overall mentality. Take a listen, boys.
We're a popular team. We're not in this for being popular. We talked about a winning culture. And the real winning comes with the play style.
To go run through the wall, brother.
Are you?
Yes,
you
I
wouldn't
am.
make it through the wall with that speech.
Really?
You wouldn't. You'd hit the wall, and you'd be right there again, like the Cowboys were.
Well, if you need a speech, first of all, you ain't going to run through jack. So, Acho, are you worried the Cowboys are more hype than substance?
I'm not worried about it because you got to worry about things you're not sure are true. You have to worry about things you're still confused about. But I know the Cowboys are more hype than substance, so why would I be worried, right? So if you take a test, before you get the grade back, you're worried about how you did. But if you know you failed, you're no longer worried about it. Like, you now have recognized you done failed. It's a wrap.
Would you even care if you failed? Like,
Cowboys are more hype than substance, but to me it's because I don't have any evidence to believe that they're more substance than hype. That's the problem, right? Right now it's speculative, but I'm going to be concrete with my answer.
Let's go.
Because I have no evidence. Even if you were to discount last year, Dak Prescott got hurt. Throw it out the window. The Cowboys with Dak Prescott are still 2-2 when it comes to making playoffs and seasons. He's made it twice out of 4 seasons. He's also 1-2 in the playoffs. So there's not a lot of substance there, even assuming a healthy Dak Prescott.
Really?
The other thing is all the players that are being displayed during Hard Knocks, which is doing a fabulous job, they the hype players, but not a lot of the substance players. We see a whole bunch of Zeke. But Zeke, as far as substance, ain't really delivered. If you're a Cowboys fan, you know this the last couple years. 83 yards per game 2 years ago. I believe he was in the 60s last year. So that's a lot more hype, feed me, than substance. Amari Cooper, he's actually the most substantive receiver for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
He's had over 3,000 yards in the last 3 seasons since he's been in Dallas. I didn't know he was on the team if you watched the show, because you don't see him.
Right.
So the players that give you the substance don't get the hype. The people that give you the hype haven't given you the substance. So as a result, Sel, as I look at it, and as I've been watching Hard Knocks, and even without watching Hard Knocks, you understand the Cowboys have always been hype. The last
that always, I noticed you just put some parameters around that always.
The last decade or so, hype, big dog. From the 2010s, 11s, every year was a Cowboys year. When Romo was there, with Dez, with Cole Beasley, with the litany of first-round picks at the offensive line, Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick, first-round pick at running back, Ezekiel. Hype before Zeke, DeMarco Murray. Hype. But what you got to show for it? They haven't shown us much substance, and I think it will continue that way.
Okay, I'm not worried as well. If you think about the Cowboys being more hype than substance. Different reason than you, so we might start arguing up here. One, when you put that star on your helmet like I did, like you did not, probably grew up wanting to, you sound like that hater, don't even love where you from. When you put that on, it's like an amplifier to a subwoofer. You know what that does? Whatever it is, it's going to be louder. It's going to be grander. It's going to be greater. That's what happens when you're a Dallas Cowboy. So no matter what level of substance that they have, the hype is going to always trump that. Why do I know that for fact? And why do you know that for fact? Because when you start to think of the Cowboys, you always abbreviate their history. You always say, like you did, always, well, the last decade or so, well, the last 25 years, but we don't want to talk about them in totality because even when they were out there tilting, as we used to say, that means winning those championships, leaning on people, we forget about that because the hype makes us forget about this. They wear the amplifier on their helmets, and they know this. But look at this team in terms of what they've done. Let's just distill what they've done because you're trying to make it seem like they have no substance. Oh, they have substance. I wonder who has the best record in the NFC East over the last 4 years. You think it's the Dallas Cowboys? I think it's the Dallas Cowboys. It is the Dallas Cowboys. I wonder what quarterback is 19-6 against NFC East teams since they've been a quarterback since 2016. Is it Dak Prescott? Yes, it is Dak Prescott. Best record in the division. When you look at them in totality, you can't even sneeze at them. They got a Hall of Fame owner. Why? Because they won 3 championships. Respect that. When you look at this team right now, they're still the best team in that division, even though they didn't win a division last year. Why they didn't win a division last year? It's really simple. They lost their star quarterback. That said, they're going to amplify things this year because they have talent. They have substance. The hype will always be in front of them because of the star. But do not discount the level of talent and substance that's on this team.
I'm not discounting the level of talent. Not at all.
Well, that's the
Cowboys
substance.
got all the talent.
That's the substance.
To me, Sel, substance is what you do. Talent is what you're capable of doing.
I'm with you.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
I need to see what you do. They got all the talent in the world. Jalen Smith, Van Der Esch, Dak, Zeke, CD, Amari, Gallup. Talent, talent, talent. But the substance is like, well,
they got the best record, though. And it's not the Washington football team.
You got the best record out of 4 teams. And mind you, that was the historically worst division last year. So they do have the best record, but it's the best record of the worst. When I look at it, what teams in the NFC are historically hyped? Green Bay Packers. Historically, a lot of hype. You know, I think, first championship, won several Super Bowls, quarterbacks from Favre to Rodgers, Starr. I mean, you got quarterbacks there. The 49ers, a lot of hype there. Steve Young, Jerry Rice, a lot of hype there. But when I look at it, the last 25 years, the Cowboys have zero NFC championship appearances.
That's right.
Whereas the Niners, Packers, even the Eagles have combined for 19.
Yeah.
So all the hype that the likes of the Packers and the Niners have, I throw in the Eagles, but they don't even have that much hype. They got substance to back it up. 19 NFC championship appearances.
Second,
Cowboys,
third, fourth place.
got none. So, Sal, there's a lot of talent, a lot of names, a lot of history, but not a lot of present-day substance. And worst of all, Hard Knocks is amplifying the hype. Like, Hard Knocks is truly out there. The Cowboys have always been hyped. We get that. But now you got Hard Knocks, which opening scene, cut to a picture of Zeke smiling, cut to Dak smiling, cut to Parsons smiling. We hyping up the main characters, but I need some substance from them. Micah Parsons is a rookie, so he ain't allowed to have substance right now. Dak got hurt early October. He ain't played football in 10 months, so he ain't really shown us no substance as of late. He's been hurt. He's disqualified. Zeke has been going down the hill the last 4 years, so he hasn't shown us substance, particularly compared to himself. So when I look at it, Sal, where all the substance at, big dog?
Dog, first of all, you know all these names, and you saying them by one name, not even their full name, that means they got some substance. You don't become a star. You don't have a moniker if you ain't got some substance. Don't do that. Don't do that. And first of all, nobody getting hyped up unless they got substance. Be sorry in the NFL from day one and see how much hype you get. Team or player, it doesn't come that way. The way it comes is substance first. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, this dude is something. Now, that substance can come from college and transition to the pros. There are some dudes who are big names from college, and they come to the pros and flame out. Then now we can have that conversation. But I noticed what you were doing there.
What I was doing?
You were talking about the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. And when you would talk about them, you would talk about them in totality, historically. But then when you get to the Cowboys, all of a sudden, like I said you would do, we got to abbreviate this. We're only going to talk about their recent woes. Let's talk about their recent success. This is a team that is built with a lot of talent. I got to start in their division because they're going to win their division. Once you win your division, all of a sudden you got a chance in the dance, right? Let's talk about 2 teams, since you want to talk about hype and substance, that you weren't giving too much hype to, and then they turned out to have substance. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Pittsburgh Steelers. Why I bring them up? They both had one thing in common. Last year, they had a change at the quarterback position, one because of injury, one because of personnel. And all of a sudden, their fate completely changed in the short term. You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that was a team that wasn't a winning team. Before they had Jameis Winston, they weren't winning, even though they put up numbers. Jameis Winston gone, Tom Brady shows up. Tom Brady shows up, all of a sudden they win a Super Bowl. Let's go to a lesser example. Let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who their quarterback gets hurt. And when their quarterback gets hurt, they don't have a winning season. Not a losing season, but not a winning season. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. They lose their starting quarterback. The next year, what does Pittsburgh do? Start off 11-0, go 12-4, go into the playoffs. What do you think the Dallas Cowboys are going to do when they get their franchise quarterback back, who now has those relaxed shoulders because he just got massaged $160 million strong? I just look at this team and saying, look, I know the hype is always going to exist. Even when they win, people are going to hype them up too much. But now this is a team that is prepped to win. So the hype is going to still be there, but the substance is catching up.
The difference, Sells, I look at it, is one team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, were replacing Jameis Winston with the greatest quarterback to ever play the game.
The GOAT.
The GOAT.
The GOAT.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, when Ben Roethlisberger was there the year before he got hurt, they had 6 losses.
Yeah.
Then Ben Roethlisberger leaves, they have 8 losses.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Roethlisberger comes back healthy, they have 4 losses. But Dak Prescott, even when he was present, the Cowboys were 9-7. Cowboys were 10-6.
Keep going.
We are far ways away from 13-3. I was getting there, but we was a far way.
And 9-7.
I was still in the league back when the Cowboys were 13-3.
That wasn't that long ago then. It wasn't that long ago. I just met you a year ago. What you talking about?
We was a far cry away, Sal, from these 13-3 years. Now, I don't bring up the history and cut it off. Green Bay Packers, I mentioned the name of the Bart Stars, et cetera, but I also mentioned the Packers have been to the NFC Championship game 8 times since the Cowboys last went. Yeah. The Niners have been 6 times since the Cowboys last went.
How those records
I'll talk history and I'll talk present with you.
Well, you got to combine 2 wins.
The Packers got a Super Bowl. The Niners got a Super Bowl appearance.
Recent history. How's Aaron Rodgers looking in championship games? What's his record? 1-4? 1-5? How's that going?
He's in the game.
He's in the game. And they're going to be in the game this year. A chance in the dance.
You can't win the lotto unless you buy a ticket. You said you got to have you got to get into the dance. You got a chance.
Yeah.
At least Aaron Rodgers is in a game.
And doesn't want to be there anymore.
What Jerry Jones would give up, what Cowboys fans would give up just to get to an NFC Championship game. Because remember, Aaron Rodgers knocked Dak Prescott out of the playoffs in Cowboys Stadium when the Cowboys were winning with about 1 minute and 37 seconds to go, if I am not mistaken, en route for Aaron Rodgers to continue his trajectory forward. And that was years ago. So, Sel,
I'm not doing
you got to be real, big dog.
It took a miraculous one play.
Cowboys have hype.
Always.
They got talent.
Always.
They got names.
Always.
But they do not have the game that is currently backing up the name.
I mean, look, man, look. I don't know what eras you lived through music. Motown? No, you weren't alive. Okay. Let's see what's out today. Let's get to rap. Death Row? No, you wasn't around. Death Row. Bad Boy? Anything like that? No. There's a certain point where, like, something build that up. Like, Death Row became Death Row because they were dropping multi-platinum albums. Bad Boy 2. And then there's also a point where you're like, these songs ain't hitting, but we still keep hearing about them. That's where the Dallas Cowboys are. But you got to understand, Cash Money, you've been through that one, right? No, I don't know. You were like 7 years old. You know damn well in your house, you weren't listening to Cash Money. You weren't listening to Lil Wayne. You weren't listening to that. Anyway, but you know about Young Money.
Of course.
So won't you start respecting the new Dallas Cowboys? This ain't the old Cash Money. It's the Young Money.
Because here's the problem. The new age Dallas Cowboys are resting on the greatness of the old school Cowboys, big dog. When you show up, you got to show up and make a name for yourself.
Dak hasn't made a name for himself.
Just kick back and lean on the label. You got to show up and make a name for yourself.
A fourth rounder who starts his rookie year and goes 13-3, and then 4 years later is the second highest paid player ever, ain't make a name for himself.
With all due respect, 13-3 is fantastic, but when you go to the playoffs and all you have is one win to show for it, it's really not all that special, collectively speaking. So no, Sal, think about it. Michael Parsons is already a star. He ain't played one snap yet, but he's got the most airtime on Hard Knocks, the HBO special proclaiming the Cowboys and their potential greatness.
I'm sorry.
Zeke, he ain't been a star by game in 2 to 3 years, but he is still getting all of this attention. Dak Prescott ain't even played last year.
Damn.
My dog ain't even played last year.
What about young Steve Young when he was bouncing around or was a backup? What about Elway, who couldn't get over the hump into his last 2 years? What do you say to those guys who are resting on the success of those who came before them that were not as successful, at least in Denver? Obviously, you got Joe Montana in front of you. I can understand it. What do you say to those Hall of Famers, those greats, and Dak Prescott, who knows what trajectory he's on right now? But I would say he's close to a Hall of Fame pace. We'll see how that gets there. We'll see how it plays out. Look, he was on pace for 6,800 yards last year. You don't like my face right now. And Dak Prescott, who has never had a losing season,
to stop
healthy.
Saying that.
He's never had a losing season healthy.
Sal,
he's one of the most winning quarterbacks ever. In the regular season. In the regular season.
No way.
With no radio play.
That you fully believe that Dak Prescott is on pace to being a Hall of Famer. Let's compare Dak Prescott's first 5 years to Russell Wilson's first 5 years.
Why are they both going in? Why do that? Give me somebody who ain't going in.
With all due respect to the great Dak Prescott, with all due respect to this man.
Salute.
We are not going to disrespect players in the Hall of Fame.
No, you're right.
By saying
because he's not in.
You're right. Currently on pace to the Hall
I can take that. I can take that.
Russell Wilson in his first 5 years. 2 Super Bowl appearances.
What you mean 2 Super Bowl appearances? You mean surfing on the waves that the defense made?
Okay, fine, but at least you're in the ocean. At least you're in the ocean.
Okay.
This man, Dak Prescott, is great.
It ain't his fault Ezekiel didn't know how to play against the Rams.
And 2 in the playoffs.
Yeah, but do you want to talk about how those games went?
You are why the Cowboys got all this hype. Because people like you will clip off Dak Prescott has a Hall of Fame pace, and it's going to run on Twitter, and people are like, oh my God, Dak Prescott's Hall of Famer, Dak Prescott Hall of Famer. And my man is 1-2 in the playoffs. Has made the playoffs twice in his first 4 seasons. Russell Wilson scrolled into the NFL and made the playoffs year after year after year after year. He's missed the playoffs once, Marcellus Wiley.
You ain't making the Hall of Fame off of playoff appearances.
Oh, you made it off Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah.
And what's that got in Super Bowl
And he's also, you're not going to set me up to shoot at Russell Wilson. I'm not going to do that. Who lost the Super Bowl by themselves? Russell Wilson. So guess what? Is that going to count against him? Is that going to count against him?
Who was there?
Look, man, I'm not trying to say Russell Wilson is not better than Dak. He is.
Of course.
But you know what? There is a gap between Russell Wilson, those in the Hall of Fame, and where Dak is trending. Dak is trending in the right direction.
But here's my question, Sel.
He had the numbers last year. He's had the team success. Now they just got to get over the hump.
Where is Dak trending? Because I listen to you on this show. It might be a mistake, but I listen to you on this show. 13-3 is here. That was Dak Prescott's first year. Let me get the camera.
Them, not just
the
him.
next year was 9-7.
There you go with that them.
The next year was 10-6. The next year was 8-8.
Oh, I know how you went to banquets.
I went to school like you went to school. I went to Columbia, but I still went to math class.
You starting the show, it's not Columbia. You starting the show.
Look now, 13-3, 9-7, 10-6, 8-8. He's not trending collectively in the right direction. First year MVP vote. First year Pro Bowl. Next year, no Pro Bowl. Third year, Pro Bowl.
Go back up.
Next year, no Pro Bowl. Fifth year, hurt. Where he trending, big dog? Because if I'm following your trends, it's not in the right direction. Right now, if I'm looking at a stock, because I start looking at stocks every day. I log online, I look at the stocks every day.
And
Dak Prescott's graph is doing this.
At home before you prep for the show. Is that why you're not prepping for the show? You over there trying to check out stocks, buying Moderna.
Did your prep lead you to saying Dak is a Hall of Famer?
Yes. It did. You know why? Because I used to go to banquets. I don't know how you went to the banquets. Let me tell you how I went to the banquets.
Please.
I always came home with 2 trophies. One is what the team did, and then there was another one that said my name on it. And I said, what's those other little letters right there? My name is MVW, and that said MVP. You better respect Dak coming home with 2 trophies, not just a team award. Coming up, KD and Draymond Green. Speaking of MVP, let everything fly in their big interview. We just heard it, too. We'll tell you who's to blame for KD leaving the Warriors. But first, Cam Newton, speaking of another MVP, got called out at practice by an opponent. Tell you if being called checkdown king is something or nothing. And that's next on Speak for Yourself. Confronting performance concerns has historically been every guy's worst nightmare. Trekking to the doctor's office, another awkward conversation followed by a long wait at the pharmacy. Thankfully, help is here at BlueChew.com, offering the first chewables with the same active ingredients as well-known alternatives. So you'll be 100% confident every time. Plus, your online consultation is free, and delivery arrives in discreet packaging. No one knows. Here's a special deal for our listeners. Try it for free when you use promo code Fox Sports at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com. Promo code Fox Sports to receive your first month free.
Now, Cam Newton, he's a former NFL MVP, but boy, he was called out Tuesday during a joint practice with the Eagles. Oh, I remember those days. Second-year safety Kevin Wallace called Cam, quote, a check-down king.
Check-down king!
During the 7-on-7 drill. Now, Wallace says he tries to get into the opponent's head, adding, quote, I felt at the time there was a lot of check-downs going on. I feel you, Kevin. I feel you, Sel. You know, your boy was a part of those old-school inter-squad practices.
We got to hear about some of that a little later.
Chip Kelly and Bill Belichick were tight, so we had to go to Foxborough and stay up there for a week and, you know, do them practices versus Brady and them and all that.
Brady and them.
You know, and all that. I digress.
It's my dog.
So, Sel, is Kayvon calling Cam check down king, something or nothing?
It is nothing. And I'm looking at Kayvon Wallace, who wants to get in the head of Cam. And during my take, I'm going to get in the head of Kayvon Wallace. We're going to see how much fun it is when the rabbit got the gun. Let's talk about Kayvon Wallace, the big brother, that little camper that Cam saw during the summer. Remember we were talking about the little camper? We were checking him out. We found his big brother. We found the family in Kayvon Wallace. Oh, you little woofer. Look. I ain't gonna diss Kayvon Wallace, but I don't know who Kayvon Wallace is like that on the NFL level. I know you went to Clemson. I know you a little baller. But I checked last year. I ain't seen no interceptions. That's all right, first year. You know, you got a couple starts in there. All right, I ain't seen no sacks. That's all right. You know, they gonna come. I saw a fumble recovery, and you over there trying to clown the former MVP for being checked down king? Let me see what he's trying to do. This is what he's trying to do. Trying to make something that's good sound bad. When I used to play against Tom Brady, we used to call him check down Tommy. You know why? Because that's all he was doing in the beginning. You don't believe me? Ask Eric Mangini. Tom Brady would throw the ball as far as his nose. That was it. Outlets, crossing routes, short routes. It didn't matter. It was methodical, and it was working. Now, you're trying to make Cam look bad for doing the right thing. I grew up with people like this. They used to crack me up, Acho. They used to say, man, why you got on the books in your backpack? Man, where you going, to go study? And try to make you feel bad for doing the right thing. Cam Newton is doing the right thing in that offense. But let me remind Kayvon, two things will happen to you. You keep woofing, homeboy. One, he gonna square them shoulders up and show you them 12 touchdowns he had rushing last year. Oh, you're not scared of that? How about this? I knew you were gonna give me them little twiddle fingers. Here's the second thing. Don't sleep on Cam throwing the ball down the field. I repeat the statistic. Of all quarterbacks last year throwing the ball 20-plus air yards, y'all want to know who was number one in completion percentage? Cam Newton. No, it wasn't Dak Prescott. No, it wasn't Deshaun Watson. It was Cam Newton. So no matter how you want it, Kayvon, with your little brother Camper, all I know is if you keep woofing at that dude, he gonna come at you, and you ain't gonna want to see it.
Somebody wake me up. I must have been asleep on Cam Newton.
Sleeping on Kayvon too then, huh? No career nut. We doing this? Oh, I got that. I was trying to be nice to Kayvon.
There is a whole lot of something to Kayvon Wallace calling Cam Newton check down king.
You didn't say it like that.
It's a whole lot of something. Let me tell you why. Ladies and gentlemen, when you start to see an ample amount of evidence that all screams the same or plays the same harmony, then there might be truth to what the individuals are saying.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm a starting story for him.
Oh, we're going back.
I'm starting stories for him. You know your boy grew up in the church. Dad the pastor, mom grew up in the church, mom sang, all that. But when you become an adult, you got to start asking yourself certain questions, right? You can't just live off what your parents told you.
You questioning God?
I got to question everything.
Ooh.
I had to question everything.
You're supposed to.
And so I read this book, Marcellus Wiley, and this book was called The Case for Christ. And this book was an investigation about who this person Jesus really was. And it was based upon different data from different people and different quotables. Now, the issue and the primary piece of evidence was that multiple people told stories. They weren't all the exact same story, because if it's the exact same story, then it might just be the same author with different names. But the stories were similar enough to carry some truth. So it would be as if someone with different vantage points or people with different vantage points said they witnessed the same thing, but they didn't all say it the exact same way. They said it with different vantage points, but it still read the same. So now that I just talked to you all about this book, The Case for Christ, what's the case against Cam Newton? Because I'm starting to hear multiple people with different vantage points of Cam Newton, and it's all saying a little bit of the same thing. Kayvon Wallace called him the check down king. If that were to stand alone, I'd pay no attention to it. But then I listened to our lovely stat team here at Fox, and they tell me, Andy tells me, that Cam Newton's average depth of target was 0.7 yards. 0.7, not even a yard. 0.7 yards this last preseason game. Mac Jones's was 7.6. So wait a second. The stat vantage point says Cam Newton is a check down king. Kayvon Wallace is saying Cam Newton is a check down king. Well, okay, Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, on July 31st, you said Cam Newton was your starter. But now you're saying Cam Newton's in a quarterback.
He didn't say that. Don't try to make that assumption. He hasn't said anything, and y'all insecure people think he said that.
Cam Newton is now no longer publicly stating that he's the starter,
He's answering questions.
but rather saying there's a competition. So wait a second. Cam, you were the unequivocal starter July 31st, 2021, but now, at least Cam Newton's words, you're in a competition. Kayvon Wallace is calling him a checkdown king, an opponent. Stats and researchers are telling me Cam Newton's average depth of target is not even a full yard. So there are several different stories from several different vantage points, all pointing to the fact that Cam Newton is, in fact, a checkdown Charlie, as we used to call them. So I think there is something to it, Sel, not just because of what Kayvon said, but if you call a bunch of witnesses to the stand, researchers, come to the stand. I ask you, what is Cam Newton's average yard of target, average depth of target? 0.7 yards, Emmanuel Acho. Thank you. No further questions. Kayvon, come to the stand. Kayvon Wallace, is Cam Newton a check down king? Yes, he is, Emmanuel. Thank you. No further questions. Cam Newton, I would ask you to come to the stand. Cam Newton, are you still the unequivocal starting quarterback of the New England Patriots? Well, no, as of right now, I'm in a quarterback competition. No further questioning. I'm just presenting to the jury and also presenting to the judge all of the evidence, and it is all pointing to the same exact thing.
Cam over here texting me right now, said, man, you must be getting paid a whole lot to be dealing with this. I was like, yeah, Cam, you're right. They tried to do this to Drew Brees last year. I remember that. They was trying to say how Drew Brees couldn't throw it farther than his nose, as well as he's, in a couple of years, going to be going into the Hall of Fame. There's no crime being committed here. I understand what you're saying. You're right.
That's fair.
We can't go to trial talking about you checking down. What's wrong with checking down? I played defense. There are a lot of times I was like, this fool should have checked down. We got that covered.
That's fair.
Cam Newton led the league in deep throws. I don't understand why people don't understand this. If you lead the league in deep throws, maybe Belichick said, come here, I'm going to give you a kiss. That means keep it simple, stupid. I want you to work on the things you can't work on, as Coach would say, your left-hand layups. He's not calling Cam stupid. He's just saying, look, Cam, you're always out there flexing. You got all those muscles. You could throw the ball deep. You led the league. How about you just work in our system? And this is the toughest thing about the New England offense. Everyone says you sit there and you almost get bored with the mundane. It's the most complex offense, has the most options in the offense, but it's also pretty simple. How many times we see Tom Brady do this? I mean, he lived and died. That was his bread and butter. And guess what it led to? 6 Super Bowls there, 7 because finally he gets to Bruce Arians, who is, I'm sorry, the brother from another of Kayvon Wallace, same mindset. Bruce Arians like, don't risk it for a biscuit and all that. And he's like, no risk it, no biscuit. He throwing the ball 90 yards. And Tom Brady said, can we get back to what complimentary football is? Check down, Charlie, Tom Brady missed a check down, and Tom Brady methodically took them to another Super Bowl victory. So people like Kayvon Wallace, first year in the league last year, didn't do that much. Well, who cares? It's a rookie. I ain't do that much my rookie year either. I ain't trying to slight your little homies. These are all jokes. But the real is, watch which tree you barking on. You know what I mean? Because that tree may fall on you. And Cam Newton is trying to work on his left-hand layups. Where do you work on them? In practice. So I don't think there's no crime being committed because what he's doing is trying to enhance his game.
Fair. Completely fair.
Case dismissed,
the biggest thing is to really say there's not necessarily anything wrong with throwing check down.
Come on.
In all honesty, fans, sometimes the check down is the safest thing you can do.
Artists, too.
The only pushback I'll give you before we get up out of here is, Sel, you got to explain to me then, 2011 to 2016, Cam Newton was first in the NFL in yards per completion. Right? Air yards per completion. First in the NFL. First, all the NFL, all the qualifiers, 25 qualifiers, through over 250 attempts. 7.3 air yards per completion. He was first from 2011 to 2016. But from 2017 to 2020, so these last 3 years, including a shoulder surgery, he's now 22nd out of 29 qualifiers. So, again, I didn't want to bring up this last piece of evidence, but if you start to look at the evidence, we can argue there's nothing wrong with throwing the check down. And if you want me to concede to that, I'll say bet. But as a defender, honestly, I'd rather you throw checkdowns than take shots because you really ain't going to beat me by throwing checkdowns. You might lose by taking shots, but you ain't going to win by throwing these checkdowns. But Cam went from being first from 2011 to 16 in air yards per completion to now 22nd collectively from 17 to 20. So I just think this evidence is very concerning.
Well, look, it depends on him being in a different system, which will obviously change your statistics because what is the philosophy of that system? Belichick's system is not to air it out. Bruce Arians' system is to air it out. But I know last year that Tom Brady had a worse completion percentage than who? Cam Newton. I know that last year Justin Herbert, who I say has a gun, you say he has a gun, who had higher yards per completion? Not Justin Herbert, it's Cam Newton. All these things just make me just laugh because we're nitpicking right here. As Kayvon Wallace is, he was just basically trying to get a name, second-year player trying to get up there and say, you know what, let me take a shot at the king. Let me take a shot at the former MVP. But my grandma told me about you, Kayvon Wallace. She said, once you call for attention, you can't hang up. Now you on my radar. And these jokes are coming, bro. Coming up, LaMelo Ball says athletes do need school. Nope. He said they don't. Oh, my God. Well, we'll tell you if we have an issue with his comments, because I do. That's next. Don't speak for yourself. LaMelo Ball's NBA career is off to a hot start after being named Rookie of the Year. For the NBA, Ball decided to play in Lithuania and Australia over playing in college. But he has no regrets about skipping school. He told GQ magazine, quote, "You want to go to the league? So school's not your priority. We're not tripping off school. We're not dumb. We know how to learn. We don't need school. And school's not even teaching you bleep. What the bleep is school?" Whoa, a lot of fragments there. So, Otto, do you have an issue with LaMelo Ball saying athletes don't need school? That's my homie, too.
Bro, the sentence fragments was killing me,
man,
dog.
What?
Like, we are not dumb.
This interview, though. He ain't tripping.
Yeah, I hate his comments saying we don't need school.
Whoa, let's go.
And why I hate them is because this. LaMelo, just because you do not and did not need school to monetarily thrive in society does not mean others like you will not, should not, and do not need school to monetarily thrive in society. Because the question is, need school for what? Typically, school is a means to an education. And education is a means to income. So you need school to garner the education, and you need the education to garner the income. Now, if you're a hooper, the education you need is different. If you're a hooper, you need to know about these X's and O's. You need to know how to put a ball in a basket. It behooves you to know about finances.
Yeah.
It behooves you to know about to know communication skills. It behooves you to know about time management. But the most important thing is to know how to hoop. But the problem is, LaMelo, you cannot give all-encompassing advice when it's only applicable to you. And that's why I got a big issue for it. So people will call me and they'll be like, "Hey, Acho, how you feel about your agents? Hey, Acho, how you feel about your publicist?
Agents?
Hey, Acho, how you feel?"
Did I hear that? You got an army, huh? No limit. Boy, how many percentage points you giving out?
Times have changed, big dog. They be like, "Hey, Acho, how you feel about this person, that person?" I say this.
What'd you say?
I love them. I always add a but.
Ooh,
And it's a huge but. I love them, comma, but. And there's a comma in there, LaMelo.
I love how you do but.
Comma, but I'm me. And so they might treat me a little bit differently than they treat you, depending upon where you are at this stage in your career.
You're giving that advice
You
down.
feel me? I'm like, I don't want you to go into this thing thinking that you're going to get the exact same treatment as your boy. Because I'm not necessarily going to get the exact same treatment as that person. I know how I get treated, and I know how I get treated based upon what I've commanded, but I don't know what you commanded. So I can't give you this advice that is applicable to you because it's been applicable to me. So I hate it, Sel, because LaMelo is giving out generic advice for specific cases, and you can't give out generic advice for specific cases.
Great point. You know I have a fondness, a deep love for the whole Ball family. Known them since I was little, and I love me some LaMelo. That's my dog. That's right. I still got his shoes at the crib. I bought them, too. Didn't even get the free swag from it. Didn't want to lend myself and lean on that relationship. But I got a little issue with these comments, and I'm going to use LaMelo with his platform, his name, his notoriety, to make a greater point. You do need school. Now, who doesn't need school? The people who walk around with a talent that is 0.0000001% of this planet that has ever lived, and that's LaMelo Ball. And he worked his tail off with that talent to now live a life that is in that 0.00001% of all humans that have ever existed. We get it. But LaMelo, you are walking into a pharmacy right now, giving a prescription to people that ain't their medicine. Here's their medicine. Let's talk about what they need. They don't need what you need. They need to take a different pill. Here's the pill of the masses. You need school for 2 reasons. Human capital, okay, and also you need to build up your hardware so you can apply your software. First, let's talk about human capital. Most people in this world do not get to have intimate experiences with the masses that are going to all be congregated with a like mind, like philosophy, like school. We're all here to learn. And then export their services all across the globe. Think about it. We're football players, so it's kind of hard to really think about it. But for a person who is not there for our reasons, who doesn't walk on campus early and people already know our names, imagine going to orientation, you have to actually wear a name tag or say hello to everyone. We didn't have to do that. So when we walk on campus, everybody know us or they know about us. But for the layman, for the normal person, you go to school because you want to be in that congregation, that when you guys all graduate, someone's going to Denmark, someone's going to Idaho, someone's going to South America. And now those are your friends, your alliances. That's the one reason you need to go to school, for human capital. The second reason is, in school, you're supposed to be building up your hardware. What is that? Basically, your principles, your values, your ways of thinking, learning, and applying yourself. All the things that we could talk about that could bore people. You're building up your hardware. Once you leave campus, it's time to apply software. What is the software? Well, at this job, they're asking for this from me. At this job, they're asking for this from me. In this endeavor, I need this to come from me. You need to know how to apply yourself in all situations. And school is supposed to prepare you as much as possible for those situations. So my biggest issue is not that LaMelo is being insincere or disingenuous, none of that. It's the fact that LaMelo is talking from a place that most people couldn't climb to even if you gave them all the ladders in the world. And that's the issue I have with his comments.
Yeah, let me take what you said and give it in a quote that I've heard.
Let's go.
They say that your net worth is your net worth.
I heard.
Your net worth is your net worth. So if, in fact, the more people you know can help you accrue more money, then it behooves you to know more people.
Hello.
Well, how can you know more people? By expanding your network and thus expanding your net worth.
Yeah.
Well, you can't expand your network if you don't really go to a place like school that has a lot of people. Now, we can simply talk to monetary aspects. You know, in recent years, average college degree, bachelor's, $78,000. That's your income, compared to $45,000, the average income of someone who just has the high school diploma. So we could just start there and we could stop there. But still, it's just too risky to be giving out advice when LaMelo, everybody can't do what you do. And the advice isn't fully accurate. We only hear about the dream stories, the LaMelo Ball stories. You go from high school and you ball Kevin Garnett, the late, great Kobe Bryant. But what about all the cats that tried to do it and failed? We don't hear about them. So I hate, one of the worst stats I hate is when you're watching a game on NFL Sunday and you hear there are more 3-star players playing in the NFL than there are 5-stars. Well, duh, because there's more 3-star recruits than there's 5-star recruits, so it's a larger sample size to choose from. Don't sit here and try to skew the numbers with these eloquent lies. LaMelo, you living a great life that you, your father, your moms, your family, all of them, your brothers, y'all put in that work for. But you can't start saying school is dumb and unnecessary because it was unnecessary for you.
Man, we got a little time. We could go here. I want to talk about how Charles Barkley was right, even though he got criticized. This is in the early 90s. You may be a little young for this one, but he went out there and said, I'm not a role model. You know why he's not a role model? Because he knew that his existence couldn't be something that your kids could go out there and could emulate. They couldn't. How many Charles Barkleys are in the world? So for everyone at home who is rearing young kids, athletes and entertainers, us, we're living a whole different animal than most people. Let's talk about that animal. Let's talk about most people. I was watching the video of a doctor who was breaking down the numbers, and he was saying how there's 1 million people out there trying to play the game of basketball at the professional level. And then you can see it at a high school level. At college level, there's 4,000 kids playing. And then at the pro level, that number drops down to just 35 who are drafted, getting newly employed, et cetera, even though there's 450 jobs. And of those, there are 7 guys who make that full-time employment beyond 3 years. Wait a minute. We got 1 million kids per million. You got 7 of those who are going to be full-time employed in the NBA beyond 3 years. Silliness. So that's why I always talk about the safety net. This is literally my story. I could have went to big schools. I could have went to football factories. No slight to those schools, but I wanted a higher safety net. I wanted a higher academic safety net. So when I hear comments like this, I just remind people that school is like a preseason scrimmage for life. In life, it's going to count. In the real world, it's going to count. In school, you're learning how to apply yourself. What's going to count? What's not going to count? And you got to take advantage of it. Unless you're going to be 6'7", unless you're going to be like my boy LaMelo in Vegas, who I just saw right now. Throw our picture up. I love this dude so much. Unless you're going to be like me and him, just, getting some chips. You know what I'm saying? I got some snacks. I don't know what he was doing right there. He kind of G'd up right now to be going where I'm going. I'm going to bed with the wife. Point being, unless you're going to be him on the left or even him on the right, let's go to school, even if it's night. Coming up, Draymond Green and Kevin Durant left nothing out in their big interview. Did you watch it, Acho? Me too. We'll tell you who's to blame for KD leaving the Warriors. Blame? That's next. Don't speak for yourself. I know you ain't about to blame somebody, Acho. Watch it. Speak for yourself. Marcel Swiley, Emmanuel Acho. Okay, we're good. Let's get back to the NBA, where Kevin Durant and Draymond Green won 2 NBA titles together with the Warriors. But they were also involved in a huge blow-up on the bench a few years back that was seen as a possible reason for KD leaving Golden State. The former teammates talked about that infamous incident in their big interview that dropped on Bleacher Report today. Take a listen.
For my own personal sanity, because I've been getting my ass kicked ever since you left. So just for my own personal sanity, how much did our argument against the Clippers drive you to ultimately lead the Warriors?
It wasn't the argument. It was the way that everybody, Steve Kerr, act like it didn't happen. Bob Myers and tried to just discipline you and think that would put the mask over everything. I really felt like that was such a big situation for us as a group. The first time we went through something like that, we had to get that all out.
We met the next morning, and they said, all right, you slept on it, you ready to apologize? And I told them right then and there, I said, y'all about to this up. I said, the only person that can make this right is me and Kay. And there's nothing that y'all can do, and y'all are going to this up. And in my opinion, they it up.
I think so too.
Ooh, got to bring in Fox NBA analyst Slick Rick Dubuker. But Acho, who's to blame for Kevin Durant leaving the Warriors?
Y'all, this one's simple. Let's not make it complicated. It's Draymond Green. Draymond Green started the fire, and Draymond Green did not put the fire out. And as a result, it is Draymond Green to blame for Kevin Durant leaving the Warriors. Now, it's very easy for Draymond Green and Kevin Durant, who just won a gold medal together, to sit there and blame other gentlemen that are not present and that are not in the room. That's easy as can be. But, Draymond, you were on the court, not Bob Myers. You was the one that got into it with KD. You was on the court, not Steve Kerr. You was the one that got into it with KD. It wasn't those two. So how are they to blame for an issue that you started? You started the fire, Draymond Green, so you should be the one to put the fire out. Again, I understand you and KD were cool before. I understand that you and KD are cool now. But let's not sit here and point the finger at the general manager and the head coach for not putting out a fire that you, Draymond Green, started. Yes, they should have told you to apologize, because while you have and have proven, Draymond Green, to have an incredible basketball intelligence, clearly the emotional intelligence has come into question at times. We know it's come into question 2016 NBA Finals. Technical foul, gets suspended, gone for Game 5, end up losing the series. We know the emotional intelligence has come into question on the court, challenging the greatest basketball player to ever wear a Warriors uniform, not named Steph Curry. So we know that the emotional intelligence can come into question at times. When it does, it's up to a general manager. It's up to a head coach. It's to step in and say, look, Draymond, we need you to apologize, big dog. Mind you, I don't know what they actually said. We're only hearing one side of the story, but it's easily and absolutely Draymond Green's fault that KD left the war.
It's easily and absolutely no one's fault. No one's to blame for this, but I can tell you about how and why this occurred. KD checked the box. KD was in pursuit of something, and he was in pursuit of not only a championship, but he was also in pursuit of what a championship would mean to him. Now, anybody who's ever pursued anything, your imagination takes over. You start thinking what that's going to do to you, whether it's that new car, that new house, that new relationship, whatever it is. And then fantasy becomes reality. So you check that box. And then after that, it just becomes about experience. Let's talk about this experience. Because when KD was done with them, they gave him the cover, the theater, the moment where Draymond's yelling at him that he needed to depart. Y'all really think that KD is leaving the dynasty with the Warriors because of a loss to the Clippers in November and Draymond yelled at me? Y'all silly. It ain't about that. Oh, you really think it's about because Bob Myers told Draymond to apologize? Apologize? Even if I do apologize, it doesn't matter because what was said was said. So we can't blame Draymond because no athlete I know is leaving that situation just because you yelled at me. And no one is leaving because somebody else tried to tell you to clean it up. What happened was my man KD, if you watch the entire interview, he told you what he really cares about. Peace. He thought the ring was going to make him happy. His old mindset. He got to that place, checked the box, say, yeah, it feels good, but it also comes with its issues. Now, you get into a situation with Draymond, and he said it. He said, the way that they handled it, the way that everyone handled it, I thought that we were going to keep it real. And when they didn't keep it real, he couldn't keep the peace that he was seeking from that same championship, those same rings. So the reason he left, and who you want to blame, it's just the fact that he got to a place where the experience didn't live up to the fantasy. It's just that simple.
You both were so close, so close. Acho, you are right. It was somebody in the room that was having this discussion that is to blame. And Marcellus, you are correct in a sense that no one's really to blame. But if we're going to answer the question, who's to blame? Kevin Durant is to blame for the decision to leave the Golden State Warriors. Because if he really wanted to stay with the Golden State Warriors, if he really saw the potential there, as Draymond did, of them winning another 5 championships, he could have worked this out. Yeah. He didn't need, as the example that he gave of the team coming together and deciding, hey, listen, we need to resolve this, or waiting for Bob Myers and Steve Kerr to handle it in a different way, or Draymond Green, if that's what he wanted to apologize. I mean, Kevin Durant is demonstrating, even in this very interview and in that very cut, about Draymond just wanted to get off it. Please tell me it wasn't me, okay? Could you please, because I'm getting killed, that I'm the one, I'm the reason that you left. And KD just kind of sits back and lets Draymond present everything. And the only thing that he agrees with is that Bob Myers and Steve Kerr didn't handle that particular situation correctly. But he does say elsewhere in the interview, nah, man, I was going for 3, but I knew it had run its course. Like, I had gotten, to Marcellus's point, I'd gotten what I wanted out of this, and I was ready to move on. There were some questions that weren't asked by Draymond in this interview that I would have loved to have known, that would have given us a fuller sense of exactly why Kevin left. And one of them is the relationship with Steph Curry and the fact that he was a 2-time Finals MVP, and yet the perception was always that it was still Steph Curry's team. How much was that a factor in him seeking to go find something that whatever he was seeking was not complete? Yes, he got the rings, but he didn't get the adulation that I think he anticipated that he would get with it. There were still questions about what he had accomplished. So I just look at it, and Kevin Durant is still being reserved about exactly what he wants and what he's asking for and what he's after. He does it in this interview. And I believe that's part of why, whether it's with the Brooklyn Nets or the Golden State Warriors or the Oklahoma City Thunder, KD likes to keep you guessing in terms of exactly where he stands and where you stand with him. And to me, that has as much to do with the Warriors not being able to hold it together as anything else.
Well, you make a good point. And let's bring up this quick aside. If Steph Curry was on the court that day, if he was in the building that day, I don't think any of this happens. And I don't think any of the Draymond and KD beef happens, Slick Rick, because KD was so adamant about getting the ball, which is why Draymond gets upset with KD, because KD gets upset with Draymond. If Steph Curry's on the court, KD wouldn't have been that adamant to get the ball, because there's a point guard who would have had the ball in his hand. So now all of a sudden, there's less beef there. Klay Thompson tries to sit in the middle of the two, but what y'all don't see before that tape, Klay Thompson is not previously sitting in the middle of the two. He hears them barking, he sits down. Iguodala, the savvy vet, he hears them barking, he enters in the middle of the two. But if Steph Curry's present, I don't think any of this happens. Goes back, however, to being Draymond's fault, because what Kevin Durant said was, Draymond, it wasn't necessarily the issue you and I had on the court. It's how they handled it, how the GM, how the team, how the head coach handled it. There would be no it to handle if not for the situation itself. Draymond Green started it. Kevin Durant had an issue with how they handled it. But without Draymond Green starting it, there is no issue to be taken with it. And so it all boils down to Draymond Green. I understand they cool now, they ha-haing, they kiki-ing, it's all good. But if not for that issue, and if the Warriors do end up winning 3 in a row, I'm not convinced that Kevin Durant leaves when an NBA team had not won more than 3 in a row since what, the mid-1960s? I'm not convinced that Kevin Durant could, Marcellus Wiley, say, you know what, let me go back to the Northeast and go ahead and see what's up there, when you could have been the first player in the last 50 years to win 4 in a row.
But to Slick's point, would he have got the proper credit with all that success? We don't know that answer because that wasn't asked as a question. But I do have to disagree with you, big dog. It's not about Draymond Green. Do you see Kevin Durant on that bench giggling? It's not about that. Look, if your friends get divorced, it's not because of the fight you witnessed at Red Lobster. Let me tell you what really happened. It's a lot of stuff going on. I always end with this Wileyism when people tell me they broke up. In relationships that end, you spend half the time breaking up. Think about that. All the relationships you've been in, if it lasted 6 months, 3 of them months were rocky. Let's just be real about that. In this situation, it lasted 3 years. About a year or so. And even KD was talking about after year 1, he said it was different. After year 1, it was different. So it's not the Red Lobster fight we're seeing in there right there against the Clippers. Let me tell you what I think is a parallel to this. This is why so many athletes, and you know, we like to take care of the village. We get drafted, we're 21 years young, and we look around at all those who invested in us, and we want to take care of them. We want to look out for them. We want to make sure they hooked up, right? And you do that so you can really inspire them to make their dreams a reality. That's what you do it for. Now, it can look different for every single person, but you're not just giving them money to burn it. You're giving them money as a motivation to say you can get your dreams and make them a reality like I did mine, right? But then you get to a point, if you've lived long enough and had money long enough, that you thought that that was going to buy them some level of motivation or happiness. And then you realize it's not. Not for all of them, and actually not for most of them. So then you got to get to a place of peace, where sometimes that looks like, hey, that's just money gone. Or sometimes it looks like, I got to cut you off because nothing's changing how you are. The dynamics of that relationship between Steph Curry always being that top dog, even though he's not the best player on that team. The fact that you got somebody barking at you that you love, but you're like, damn, dog, can you chill? We are doing this. I think all of that is going to give us a greater understanding of what's going on at play, more so than just one fight at Red Lobster.
Okay, so to be clear, this was not the it. While I agree, if Draymond doesn't bark, then there is no it. But KD was the one who was unhappy about not getting the ball from Draymond. So it started there. So I have to at least give both of them a piece of that. But there's also, in another part of the interview, Draymond asks KD about why he's not in a committed relationship, why he doesn't have kids. And I'm just going to speak from experience on that. Until I got married, until I had kids, whenever there was a relationship that suddenly went sour or it wasn't working or something went a little sideways, it changed on me, I was ready to dip. There was no reason to stay and try to look to the future and say, let me weigh what I'd be losing if I let this go. Because it was just so easy to let it go and say, there's got to be something better out there. I was wrong about what I thought I had here. But when you're committed, you suddenly, I learned, you know what? Sometimes you got to look at the present and say, is the future worth me fixing this right now? Is it worth me trying to work through whatever issues we have? Because we got some potential down the line worth it. KD has never experienced that. KD has always had the ability to say, yeah, and I respect him. He says, you know, that's a commitment. That's a responsibility that I don't know that I'm ready for, that I'm going to be ready for, I think I'll be ready for down the line. So he wasn't looking at the Warriors and thinking, man, I might not find anything better than this. I need to find my way through this issue with Draymond. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to fix it. I want to fix it. And ultimately, that's the biggest thing that I learned that turned things for me was not to think about what I was going to get out of the relationship, but what I was willing to give to it to make it work. And I just don't know that Kevin Durant has experienced that in his life. And maybe if he had, he would have looked at this Warrior situation a little bit different. Because I don't believe whether it's Brooklyn or any place else, he's ever going to find anything that was as perfectly built for them to, if it's winning championships, to do exactly what he was after.
Man, that was the realest take ever. I don't know if it was real for KD as much because there are some super single guys who are committed. Where's Acho? He's committed to me, right? You're committed to this show. You're committed to your work. But at the same time, boy, you hit me where it hurts. That was a heartfelt take. Here's my one guess, because I don't like to get too ahead of my skis. I don't know what really went down. But I do know, looking at the behavior of these individuals, kind of makes me want to read these tea leaves. I think KD, when he got to the Warriors, after they all went, the Hampton 5, they lost their 73-win championship opportunity. And he's like, okay, I'm coming in, and this is going to be a clean slate. Not knowing that the equity of Steph Curry was so grand that no matter what you do, KD, no matter what their shortcomings were the year before you, it's still going to be Steph getting all the love. And I think KD made a deal with himself. Like, all right, the world thinks this is Steph's team, but everybody here know this is my team. I'm the dude. Not only am I playing offense better than Steph, but defense, because we don't let half our dudes go just to get me, and I'm the best defender. Okay, no problem. The world doesn't know, but y'all get it. Y'all my boys. And then he gets out there in November against the Clippers, and Steph ain't there. And Draymond burst his bubble. Draymond not giving him the ball, not giving him the proper respect, made him think, wait a minute, I thought that y'all already knew. Now, I know they don't know because they don't know basketball. They don't know our team. But y'all in on the act too? And I think that made KD start giggling like, oh, I'm going to show y'all who's important.
But I think, Sel, you're right in your analysis.
Okay, that's good
But I
enough.
think that the Warriors were right in their judgment. The reason that whole beef started, in my mind, Steph Curry was not there, he was not present. I do not think it would have happened if Steph Curry was present. I think the Warriors adequately and accurately knew who is the glue on this team. Who is the most important person on this team? Who actually does contribute to the most points? Not just scores the most points, that's Kevin Durant. Who contributes to the most points on this team? That is Steph Curry. So I think that Kevin Durant never got his rightful place exclusively on the throne, because I think within the locker room, the Warriors know who deserved the rightful place on the throne. Not necessarily by finals MVPs. That's Kevin Durant. Who was the best ISO one-on-one basketball player on the team? That's Kevin Durant. But I think the Warriors knew who was with us shooting in the gym. Who was with us before Steve Kerr? When it was Mark Jackson? Who helped build this thing up? Who actually won a finals in 2015 before KD? That was Steph Curry. Who was setting records before KD? That was Steph Curry. So I think KD never got his proper praise because he was never deserving of the praise he believed he thought he was deserving of exclusively. That praise always would have to be shared with Steph Curry because Steph Curry built it. KD, you came in and you lived in it and you made it better, but Steph Curry built it, and dare I say he helped build it from the ground up.
Oh, man. If there's ever a topic on this show I never want to leave, it's this topic. KD didn't get his props. That's what we basically said, and he deserved his props. And they all came out on record saying that KD was the best player. But I understand what you're saying in terms of them building it up to a certain place and KD just putting all the finishes on it. But, man, last time I checked, nobody came to no art class ever caring about the glue. They just care about the popsicle sticks and the art that's attached to it. Coming up, Mike McCarthy wants a winning culture in Dallas. Y'all can tell I got kids, boy. Art every day, and most of it's bad. We'll tell you if he's on the right path with his Cowboys. That's next on Speak for Yourself. Man, I love that topic.
Some of that glue is tasty, fellas.
Let's head back to Dallas. Episode 2 of Hard Knocks aired last night, and head coach Mike McCarthy got a lot off his chest before his squad's preseason game last Friday. McCarthy said, quote, "We're a popular team. We're not in this for bleeping being popular. We talk about a winning culture." Well, we've had our talk, so we got to bring in Bucky Brooks, NFL analyst, to talk his talk. Bucky, has Mike McCarthy built a winning culture in Dallas?
Not yet. Not yet, because when we think about culture, you should be able to close your eyes and envision what the team is about. And when I think about the Dallas Cowboys, I don't know if I see and feel their culture based on the first year of returns from Mike McCarthy. I want to use an example, and I'll use an example from basketball. So much of the conversation last year was about Miami Heat and Heat culture and what they've done. And what you know is that, look, meanest, toughest, most professional, best conditioned team that shows up. They do all of those things. I don't know if I really know what the Dallas Cowboys are all about. If I asked you guys to line up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, in your mind, there's something that you know that you're going to have to deal with when you face the Steelers. Same thing with the Baltimore Ravens. You know what you're dealing with when you play the Baltimore Ravens. For me, when I think about the Dallas Cowboys, I still don't know what they are beyond the glitz and glam. And so if Mike McCarthy really wants to establish a culture in Dallas, it has to be a consistent thing. They have to talk the same talk. They got to play the same way. You have to be able to watch the Dallas Cowboys and get a sense of who they are without them even saying a word.
I like that, Bucky Brooks, and I believe that you are right. I don't think that he's established a winning culture, but I don't know what culture that he's established yet. He shows up and the Cowboys instantly win 6 games. Now his starting quarterback gets hurt. I understand all that. But even in the midst of that, culture is not defined by one individual. Culture is defined by team. So when Andy Dalton gets hit, cheap shot, if there was a culture of toughness, the Cowboys offensive lineman would have gone to Andy Dalton's defense. Remember last season, Andy Dalton gets cheap shot against the Washington football team, if I am not mistaken. They did nothing. Culture is defined by team. Culture could be incredibly disciplined, like the New York Giants. At least we know this. They're a disciplined football team. They ranked 3rd in penalties last year as far as fewest. Cowboys are 11th worst when it comes to penalties. So even as far as discipline, there is no culture. Now, while culture is not made up of one person, culture at least has one person who embodies it. For example, Tom Brady, when he was with the Patriots, you knew what he was all about. You knew what the Patriots were all about. I do not know who the Cowboys leader is. We say it's Dak Prescott because he's a quarterback, but Dak Prescott hasn't practiced this camp. Dak Prescott hasn't played since last October. So he is the leader by being the quarterback, but I ain't see him breaking out no huddles all camp. We've been watching Hard Knocks, so I've been watching the details of it all. Haven't seen Jalen Smith. Micah Parsons can. He's a rookie. Zeke, haven't really seen him. DeMarcus Lawrence a little bit. He gets in there. He's vocal. But I don't even know who the Cowboys' vocal leader is. Not who their highest paid guy is. That is Dak Prescott. But I'm not sure who is the person who's supposed to embody the culture, who's here each and every day, who's doing it in practice, who's doing it in the game. So McCarthy hasn't established a winning culture because, to me, he hasn't truly established a culture at all.
Got to push back on you guys right here. Yes, he has built a winning culture. Why? Well, simply because they're going to win this year. I mean, what else is there to say about this? But you guys want to make this a little more complex and give me false examples about what a culture looks like. Now, we've used the New England Patriots several times already talking about what culture looks like. Let me remind you guys that I used to play against the New England Patriots when they didn't have the Patriot way, when it wasn't the Patriot culture. And when they were building their culture, two things jumped out to me. One, the way it started is not the way it ended, because it started with a collection of leaders on defense and special teams, while Tom Brady was trying to figure it out. Then it shifted to now Tom Brady becoming the enforcer of whatever this culture looks like. Well, let's talk about what culture looks like. It's been defined several ways. One is what's rewarded between the white lines. That's what culture is, whether it's football or in life. Whatever you're doing, whatever endeavor you're a part of, whatever's rewarded is what the culture is. Shout out to Ben Horowitz, who always states that. Now, let's talk about what can culture also look like. What do your actions, your services subscribe to? So no matter what you over there trying to talk about, what are you trying to align your actions towards? Let's think about that when we talk about these Dallas Cowboys. What are their thoughts and their words and actions leaning towards? What is it taking you to? High expectations. And that's the culture of the Dallas Cowboys. You guys don't respect the Dallas Cowboys culture because right now they haven't won in a long time. 25 years or so. But what are the expectations? High. What is the culture to meet those same expectations? When I close my eyes, I do know what the Dallas Cowboys look like. I know they got a beast at running back who's been in slight decline, but I got to remind myself he started from the heavens. And that descent is still high, even though we know that he's been in decline. He's still a top 10 running back in our league. When I close my eyes, I see a team that when Dak Prescott is healthy, they never have a losing season. When I close my eyes, I start to look at this defense that has talent all around, but is starting to try and put that together. Why do I know that? Because the second part of the season, that defense looked good. The first part of the season, they were atrocious. With a new defensive coordinator in there, helping to build this winning culture, with my eyes closed, I can see the Dallas Cowboys have one of, if not the most talented offenses. It's all going to come together this year in the winning culture because they're going to win this year.
Look, they may win, but I don't know if you can clearly say that they have established a culture, because really a culture is a group of people that share the same vision, share the same values and traits and those things. And I don't know if in Dallas, everyone in the locker room shares the same core beliefs when it comes to how they go about doing their business and how they win games. Going back to last year, we heard a player in that locker room talk about, oh, it's impossible to give maximum effort the entire game. I can't play hard the entire game. Maybe some of the game, but not the entire game. Then I hear Acho bring out a great example against the Washington football team. Your quarterback gets socked in the face and no one does anything. So now I have a team that doesn't play hard and you're not tough. So in the National Football League, when we talk about the toughest team always win, you have a team that doesn't play hard and is not physical or tough. So if we talk about culture, you can't build a winning culture until you get those two things out of the way. And so they may have high expectations, but do their actions and behaviors lead to that result? I can't say right now that it does. We will see if it changes with Mike McCarthy in year 2, but based on years 1, I don't know if we have that.
The other thing, though, I'm thinking, Bucky and Sel, is you can have a winning football team and not have a winning culture. I would argue that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had several winning football teams without a winning culture. Steelers will win 12 games, have a running back sitting out the whole year, have a star wide receiver doing whatever he's doing, have another star wide receiver recording post-game pressers on Facebook Live while his head coach is talking. So, like, you can win games and not necessarily have a winning culture. Conversely, you can lose games and have a winning culture. I was a part of the New York Giants on practice squad for about 8 weeks back in 2013, and that was a winning culture. They did not have the talent to match. Eli Manning was far over the hill, and he was on his way down, as we know. They didn't necessarily have a healthy running back. The first-round pick had gotten hurt. He had a neck injury. Victor Cruz had gotten hurt shortly thereafter. They didn't have the talent, but they still had the culture. And so I've seen losing teams have winning cultures, winning teams have losing cultures, etc. The Cowboys at this point, I just don't think they have a culture, period. They got talent, but I don't know what are the Cowboys. Are they tough? No, they're just flashy. And to me, flashy is not a culture. Flashy is a description of a look, but flashy doesn't necessarily describe a personality type. And that is why, to me, Sal, yeah, they got talent, but boy, it ain't got no culture.
Man, to me, this is just a bunch of rhetoric. Like, I'm glad you kind of took me there, too. It's a talent conversation in sports. We always want to, culture. Patriots had a culture that was hardened in concrete for 20 years. Tom Brady leave and take 2 homeboys with him, they can't win. So where'd the culture go? Oh, well, it got them close. Oh, man, stop. You know what would have got them closer or over the hump? Better players. So then we look at the Dallas Cowboys, we say, oh, man, they ain't even want to fight. And one dude kept it real. When keeping it real goes wrong, he told the truth that players don't play as hard as they can from whistle to whistle, sideline to sideline. And that's supposed to give me an expose on them having a losing culture? No player plays 100% the entire game. So that's not going to undermine what a culture looks like. To me, I just seen it happen too many times. I've seen the Lakers in the mid-90s struggling. I thought they had a winning culture from the 80s. Then I see them again struggling in the mid-2000s. Thought they had a winning culture from the back-to-back-to-backs. Then you see the Chicago Bulls. They trying to get it right this year in free agency. When last time Chicago Bulls won? When Jordan was there. Thought it was a winning culture. It's about players, man. And they got the players. That's the most beautiful thing about these Dallas Cowboys. Y'all keep trying to punch that culture card, and they're going to hit you back in the mouth with a talent card. Coming up, the NFL is Nixon taunting this season. I mean, it's got to go. We'll tell you if we like the changes that are on the way. Next, don't speak. The NFL has made it clear that taunting will be a point of emphasis this season. The league will not crack down on TD celebrations, but will penalize getting an opponent's face. If you get into his face, point, stand over someone on the ground, all that got to go. And Giants owner John Mara, who was also on the competition committee, addressed the change. Listen to John.
We get kind of sick and tired of the taunting that does go on from time to time on the field. We've tried to balance the sportsmanship with allowing the players to have fun, and there's always a fine line there, but none of us like to see that.
Sick and tired being sick and tired. I like that, John. So, Acho, what's your reaction to John Mara's comments on the taunting rule?
Man, I just think he might leave players confused, Sal. I'll give it to you like this. Oftentimes before a game, particularly a preseason game, because this is the first time we're seeing the rule be applied, your coaches will tell you, I want to see some passion. Want to see some energy. You make a big play, go out there and celebrate with your guys.
Yeah.
And show some energy.
Yeah.
I vividly remember 2014 preseason, playing the Carolina Panthers. I get blocked, I spin off the block, I make a tackle against Kenyon Barner, ends up being a teammate of mine, pick him up, dump him. I'm not a celebration guy, I'm too logical. You celebrate, you're wasting energy. I got to go play the next play and run the
I'm tired,
but
boss.
after making that play, I'm like, wait, I got to celebrate so the cameras can see, so when we're watching film the next day, make sure that coach can see. I'm trying to make the team. You need to know this was a big play. A little subliminal influence. For y'all that don't know, defensive ends, if they get a sack and it's with several people, get off the pile last. Because if you get off the pile last, defensive ends will tell you, I'm sure Marcel's will tell you, the announcers will at least credit you with the sack. And
Wiley.
if the announcers credit Wiley with the sack, the stat sheet might just credit Wiley with the sack.
I'm ahead of it already.
Okay, he's already ahead of the game. You end up celebrating in sports in part because you're told to, like you were reinforced to. But then also it's a game. You make a big play, you just hype. But now, Sel, it's a matter of if I celebrate next to a defender or next to an offensive player, now I'm taunting. So what am I to do? Make a big play and then go sprint 10 yards and go celebrate by myself? Well, now coach is mad at me because coach always says celebrate with your teammates. Well, also, now I might get a delay of game penalty because the clock is already running for the next play. So as a player, I would just be confused. I don't really know how to act. I'm supposed to celebrate. My coach told me to celebrate. I need to celebrate. But now my owner's saying we're getting tired of taunting. But the difference between taunting and celebrating is if anybody else is around me. But there are 21 other players on a football field. So how am I supposed to celebrate by myself? I'm not allowed to celebrate by myself because coach told me to celebrate with my teammates. And that, I think, is my reaction. And that is a dilemma.
Oh, okay. To me, it ain't that damn serious. I'm with John Mara, and y'all players better stop talking about it, stop tripping on it, and get in line. Damn right I said it. Y'all remind me of when the targeting rule came, and everybody's like, well, we supposed to hit him now. Oh, man, I've been practicing since Pop Warner a certain way. I can't learn. Did you figure it out? Yeah. Well, this is how you're going to figure out how to celebrate and express yourself the way it naturally was. When you playing Pop Warner, you never ran up to the other team. Hey, you didn't do all that. You know when you start doing all that? When you saw some grown man getting away with it. You was like, I want to be like him. Well, here we go. And then all of a sudden, your little 9-year-old sorry butt is over there trying to be like him. So John Morrow's like, let's get back to football. Let's get back to the money. This is all about money. This ain't about expression. This ain't about your talent. This is not about your emotions being suppressed. This is about money. Let me give you this example. Top-rated movies of all time. If you want to look at it from the top of the list, you're going to go a long way down before you see a movie that's rated R. You know why? It's a family experience. So PG-13 at most. But we trying to sell this to families. I just went to SoFi Stadium. Now, you go in there, you want to bring your family. What do we need to make this a family-friendly environment? Let's have some safety in the stands. We had a little issue there last week. Let's also make the product on the field something you can tap your little boy and MJ and say, look at that play. And then when you tap him, he's like, what, Daddy? He doesn't want to see all that. He wants him, the father, to see a kid, see an adult, be an adult and professional. So to me, this is really simple. It's about getting back to the money. Sometimes in life, because of our expressions, we all have a voice. We get away from what we originally intended. We originally intended just see somebody get their butt knocked out, and then you and your boys clown it and go back and try and do it again. That's all John Morrow's saying.
Yeah, Sale, but I mean,
come on.
But where's the line, big dog? Because this would be a penalty if that's in the face of a defender.
He better
all
move.
Zeke is doing is eating and pointing forward. Now this, Tyreek Hill's little peace sign as he's running forward in front of a defender's face is now a penalty. I'm like, that's not anything that a 5-year-old young MJ can't afford to see. That's not anything.
Yeah, it is.
How, Sal?
Because you see what happens with those? Sometimes Deshaun Jackson occurs, and then he drops the ball before he gets into the end zone. Look, it's not the worst thing, but this is what John Morrow's trying to say. There's two principles in this world. Principle with an AL and principle with an LE. He's trying to change the principles with an LE so he cannot have anything affect the principles with an AL. The money gets affected by the values. It's just crazy like that. I'm with you. I don't give it. If you have my football on my channel, we acting X-rated. We doing what we do because football's brutal. However, when you put your business hat on, you got to start looking around the world and starting to realize the things that make the most money, everyone in the family's involved in. Coming up, has Jon Gruden been a disappointment with the Raiders? What? We'll answer that next. Don't speak for yourself. Chucky with the gut. Hey.
Let's head to Las Vegas. Not to gamble, but to talk about the Raiders, because Jon Gruden is set to enter year 4 as Raiders head coach. But it has been an uphill battle. Gruden has a 19-29 record with 0 playoff appearances with the Raiders. Now, the Ringer called him out, saying he needs to, quote, focus on what he's best at and leave the roster building to others. Co-sign with that. But, Sel, where you stand on all this? Has Jon Gruden been a disappointment with the Raiders?
Not at all. He's right on pace, right on time to do what he's doing, which is improving every single year, not only in wins, but also in stats and rankings. I don't know why the phone was off the Ringer. I don't know what's up with the Ringer right now, but they should hang up because I don't know what the hell they talking about. This dude got a 10-year deal. Name another coach that got a 10-year deal. You know what that 10-year deal tells me? That ownership was like, this going to take a minute. And we're going to give you a minute. So guess what? With your 10-year deal, just show us signs of life. And the Raiders have shown signs of life. 4 games, first year. 7 games, second year. 8 games, third year. Interesting. Offense, 23rd, 11th, and 8th. Interesting. But we want to talk about the Raiders. They ain't winning a Super Bowl. Then what are they doing? 2 things they're doing. One is they're hitting a hard reset button this year. I was just in Vegas a week and a half ago. Good Lord. You get out the airport, you know the tarmac, you know the PJ land. I'm like, all right, y'all get off. You know, I'm on my PJ spending that dough. Actually, it was Southwest. Whatever it is. The point is you land, and then you sit there, and you got to go to your hotel on the Strip. Guess what you see? A black spaceship. A stadium like just coming out the damn ground. Like, whoa. So that's going to be a hard reset because fans are going to be in there this year. That's going to be something that's going to help them in the energy. I'll give you a story about that next lap. Also, the fact that if you look at this team, They are poised to win because of the fact that they have talent on top of going through this process of building every single year. But who were the Raiders before? You forget. Last time the Raiders did anything in the playoffs, what was that, 2002? Oh, one playoff appearance since then. Okay, so what are you talking about? They had no soil that was ready and fertile and able to cultivate. They had barren land, and now the Raiders are there, and the Raiders are back.
So, Jon Gruden is the ultimate deceiver.
What do you mean?
He's the ultimate.
Don't do that to
He's the ultimate deceiver.
Don't do that.
Here is why.
Don't do that.
Jon Gruden took something that had life in it. Maybe not a ton, but it had life in it.
What?
He killed that thing. And then you walked in and you saw him resuscitating this object, and you're like, look at him. He's saving the day. No. It had breath in it when he walked in. He now strangled it to a point of being unconscious, and now you walk in and try to praise him for resuscitating the very thing he killed. Jack Del Rio was a coach for the Oakland Raiders. The 3 years that Jack Del Rio was there prior to Jon Gruden showing up, 25 and 23. The 3 years prior to Jon Gruden showing up, Derek Carr was going to 3 Pro Bowls. He'd had an MVP vote, MVP consideration. But Jon Gruden shows up, and he's 19 and 29. But your predecessors, the 3 prior years, was 25 and 23. Jon Gruden shows up and trades away Amari Cooper, a-star $100 million wide receiver. Since then, Amari Cooper has amassed 3,028 yards. The Las Vegas Raiders' leading receiver over the period, 1,200 yards. Hunter Renfrow. I'm not talking about tight end. I'm talking about receiver. He trades away Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack since then has amassed 30 sacks. The Raiders' leading sack man, Max Crosby, 17 sacks. So Jon Gruden suffocated something that had life. And then he began to slowly resuscitate the thing in which he suffocated, and I will not give him praise for doing such. He's been a huge disappointment. 3 years in the NFL, big dog, is a long time. 3 years is the average career of an NFL player.
Not a coach.
So 3 years is just a long time when you're talking about duration of an NFL. And 19 and 29, the last thing I'm going to say is this. I don't know if I'm getting another laugh.
You real mean, right?
Jon Gruden's supposed to be a QB guru, right? I was used to watch another network, and he had his own little QB sit-downs, his own little private camps with quarterbacks. So if you're supposed to do anything well, Jon Gruden, I would think, is develop a quarterback. Okay. But Derek Carr, who went to 3 Pro Bowls prior to you showing up, he ain't been since. If you're supposed to do anything well, Jon Gruden, I would believe it was develop an offense. But Jack Del Rio's highest offensive output was 6th in the NFL. Jon Gruden, your highest offensive output was 8th in the NFL. Jack Del Rio once led the league in turnovers per game as far as efficiency, how many turnovers he's forcing, how many he is creating. Jon Gruden, you were 3rd to last year. So, Jon Gruden is the ultimate deceiver, and it appears that once again, he has deceived you.
Wow. You just went up there and just start grabbing all the appliances, just cooking up anything you could. Okay, you want to go Pro Bowls now, huh? But you want to talk about how he's playing better. Derek Carr. Let me see what his quarterback rating was last year. 101.4. Let's see if it ever was that before. Nope. Was it ever 100 before? Yeah, the year before. What about the year before that? 93. Now, what happened with Jack Del Rio? First of all, you ain't gonna make me shoot at my boy Jack Del Rio. He should have never been fired. That said, don't act like Derek Carr ain't been putting up some numbers since then. Actually, if you look at his top 2 and 3 of his top 4 quarterback ratings, they're all under Chucky. If you want to look at Chucky right now, the Raiders have only won more than 9 games once over the last 18 seasons. That would include Jack Del Rio that one time. But now you're going to act like he just grabbed something and then said, I'm going to take the life out of it and then give life back to it. Really? Why are they only ranked top 10 in scoring offense once in the last 9 seasons? Once. But you act like Chucky had a lot to deal with, a lot to grow with, a lot to grow with. Chucky is the reason why now you're starting to look at the Raiders and say, maybe they weren't a losing team last year. You got to respect them in a very tough division. Go get them, Chucky. Coming up, Patrick Mahomes could see more action in the preseason. We'll tell you if that's a good idea or not. And he knows he has to look out for the Raiders because they beat him last year. That's next on Fit for Yourself. Well, got that on Nacho. Patrick Mahomes is coming off toe surgery, my toe, as he gets ready for year number 5 in the league. Chiefs superstar played one series in KC's preseason opener And Andy Reid said there's a, quote, pretty good chance Mahomes will be on the field for more than 4 plays in their next game because he thinks getting used to the new guys is important. So, Acho, is there any reason for Mahomes to play in the preseason?
No, sir. And remember, I told you this yesterday. Context matters. I believe Dak Prescott should play in the preseason. I don't believe Mahomes should play in the preseason. They both play quarterback. What is the difference? Dak Prescott coming off of an injury. I want to see how is your body going to respond before you get into live bullets. Mahomes has no reason to play in the preseason based upon the context of himself. 10-0 with 32 passing touchdowns and no interceptions in September. Recall, there were 221 days between the end of the 2020 Super Bowl and the beginning of the end of the 2020 Super Bowl and the beginning of that 2020 season. 221 days. Mahomes goes out there against the Houston Texans on a Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken, 3 passing touchdowns, completing 75% of his passes, no interceptions. So Mahomes has already proven to us, proven to himself, proven to the organization, he can have extended time off, be healthy, and be Gucci. But other quarterbacks haven't necessarily proven what Mahomes has proven. I see no issue.
I'm with you. No, he shouldn't play in the preseason. Kind of with me, though, by myself, nobody should be playing in the preseason. That's worth a damn, worth their salt, worth some money, worth something to your team. But this argument is starting to get so archaic. It's starting to sound like how my daddy used to say he walked uphill both ways in the snow to get to school. And I was like, Daddy, there's an easier way now. And you know what? It's a risk-reward relationship based on every single quarterback. Not their success, but them optimizing their ability. Not even quarterbacks. Aaron Donald's going to wear that chain all preseason long. He's not taking that chain off because he's not touching a single soul. Aaron Donald will be in the top 5 of MVP voting this year and Defensive Player of the Year voting, as usual. Let's talk about how no one in the NFL last year played in the preseason. Not a single soul. Let's talk about how no one in college ever plays in the preseason. Not a single soul. Let's also talk about the MVP from last year, Aaron Rodgers. Another guy. No preseason action. MVP, NFC Championship game. Let's talk about Jared Goff, who, according to you, probably needs some reps in preseason. But he just went and led him to the Super Bowl, had his best year ever when he wasn't out there in the preseason. You're going against dudes that are not as good, and even if they are, they're not going as fast as they should. So I'm not getting sharp as you think, Coach. This is all about the money. And we get it because we like our money. We like our checks, even though our camp checks are pretty small.
The smallest.
The smallest. Let's talk about that.
Yes, thank you. Hijacking this.
Yeah. Stop playing.
Preseason checks, bro. You only make $1,500.
Okay, don't say only.
I have to say only because conversely, there are players in the NFL on $100 million contracts who are making $2.5 million a week.
Okay, say only again.
So you only make $1,500. Even when I was making league minimum was roughly $23,000 when I was playing. 2015, 2014, $23,000 a week.
Yeah.
$1,500 a week to do the exact same thing. Actually more than you're doing in a regular season, big dog.
Look at this, our high society problems. Look at the little snobby athletes up there, 23,000. No haircuts that week, though, $1,500, and you couldn't afford it. Coming up, Kevin Durant will face LeBron on Christmas Day. Tell you if we have more confidence in the Nets or the Lakers. That's next. Don't speak for yourself. Cass used to be mad.
The NBA's Christmas schedule was released Tuesday, and the Nets coming right here to L.A. to play the Lakers as a marquee matchup. Now, Brooklyn has their big three. The Lakers have a new look big three with the addition of Russell Westbrook. So, Marcellus, besides inviting me to the game to watch as we sit next to each other on our first
Laker game?
Which team are you more confident in, the Nets or the Lakers?
Throwing tomatoes at me in my hometown. No, sir. Of course, it's the Nets. The Nets are on all the marquee games. This is just Nets and. You'll notice there's no Bucks and. Anyway, it's the Nets because they have the big three. And when healthy, we just heard them say they believe in themselves and they're going to win it all.
All I want to know is, are you inviting me to the game? Like, is this going to be our first time, like, actually hanging out there?
That's it for us. The Fox Sports PBC pay-per-view press conference with Pacquiao's next.